Okay, so this came about through a little thing I started called Teaching Tuesday. So I came up with an idea. It's actually about a year or so ago. I never did it until recently. The idea is I would start holding webinars periodically on Tuesdays, and we would take a topic and just kind of run through it and ask questions and get some answers and talk amongst ourselves, etc. And I created a Google moderator group, which will go away on June 30th, by the way, because Google's disallowing the service. So anyway, if you have any ideas about things you want to see, go out to tinyurl.com/teaching Tuesdays, and from now until June 30th, you can do it there. After that time, I'm going to have to find another place to host that type of thing. But it just has some topics out there like this one, which another gentleman suggested, which has actually been on my list, and I call this series XRM at Work. So the idea here is what we're going to do is we're going to take a project or a topic that I've worked on or I've seen other people work on, and we're going to kind of go through how we would do it. So this is not actually presenting you with like code you can use or things like that. It's just to kind of get you to thinking about the things that you can use Dynamics CRM for in an XRM type of way. And the one today is about how we can do software fulfillment with CRM. So the agenda for today, we're going to talk about the business requirements, the current and future business processes, the automation goals, the the solution components, and finally the automation components that made up this solution. So customer backgrounder, there's a small ISV, which happens to be me. So this is actually the system that I use. That when you buy something from me, this is how it gets delivered. So I create utilities and components that are integrated with CRM. I have customers around the world, so I needed a system that could basically do things where I wasn't involved. That was the main thing. So business requirement, there's only one requirement: complete 100% automation of the software fulfillment process. So the idea here is it's the middle of the night here in the States, in Dallas. Somebody in Europe wants to buy one of my tools, say like my snapshot documentation tool. They go out to my website, they click the purchase button, they put in their information, put in their credit card information, and it magically gets purchased, and they get a license key where I didn't have to do anything at all. Okay. The business process that was in place before this started was this. A prospect would come to the website, they would place an order, it would send me the confirmation, me being the salesperson, quote unquote. I would have to generate a license by hand and email that to that person manually, and then I would have to put their information into my CRM Online system to track their information there. So this is 100% manual labor, and after a while it got to be kind of not so much fun, especially when people wanted immediate fulfillment, because that's what the internet does, is it gives you the ability to get stuff immediately. Well, I had broken that whole process because I was the man in the middle, literally and figuratively both. So I had to come up with a system that I could use that would generate the license keys and email this in an automated fashion. And as we walk through this, you'll see it actually works quite well. So my ideal system is much reduced, as you can see. So the prospect comes to the website, they place an order, it gets put into Dynamics CRM, and they get a license key. End of story. You notice that there's no man in the middle figure there. It's because everything happens automatically. There's nothing for me to do except for some kind of maintenance things we have to talk about later that will sometimes get you. So the goals were pretty simple. We had three. We had a physical product sale. We needed to capture both the customer information and the product information. Then we had to create a product license and deliver that to the customer so that they could actually activate the software. So the first one was pretty simple. I had spent a lot of time researching, and I ended up with a company called or a site called e-junkie.com. So ejunkie.com, and what they do is they have a shopping cart that is a front end to PayPal. Used to have a front end into Google Checkout before they stopped that service. And what it would do is it will actually handle the interface to PayPal, where I didn't have to write any code for that. And so they handle the sale. It goes to PayPal. Once they get the answer that the person paid back, they will actually give them a page with a link to download the software, and it sends a confirmation email to both the customer and to me. So that all worked just the way it should. So since that worked, I had to figure out a way to automate some of the other components. So the requirements of this work fine. Like I said, everything worked. The physical sale process actually worked. The problem was the licensing. So digging around inside their system, and this eJunkie has been around for quite a while, and they have actually got some pretty cool add-ins that they've developed. And one of those is when a sale is made, it will automatically send a secondary copy of the confirmation that comes back from PayPal to another email address. So once I found that, then what I did is I created a new email address in my company, basically called like websales@crmaccelerators.com or net, and then I created a CRM queue that was email enabled with that email address, and then I connected the email router to CRM to handle the inbound email for that. So that's, pure CRM right there. So all I really did was make one change to the checkout of eJunkie to where it would send a secondary confirmation to this email address, and it got inside CRM, and then we could go from there. So here is what it looks like. So the way that eJunkie works, no matter which system that they were using at the time, because again, I had two when it first started, they would send the same format. So it tells me the date of the sale, who it was, their email, last name, first name, the product they purchased, how much it was. If they are buying a license for a single CRM organization, we would have the CRM organization name. And so all this information is collected by eJunkie based on either what the user inputted, what PayPal gave back to it, or whatever else was entered. So I had to customize CRM to actually capture this information, and then I had to extract that information from the email itself. So this is kind of a two-part solution here. So the first part we'll get into in a second is creating custom entities, and then the second part here is I had to have a plugin to pull the data out and then create those entities. So with anything within Dynamics CRM, you should always, of course, try to use what they already have. And if it doesn't fit the situation, then you create new entities. And then we're going to create an automation component of some type to tie all those things together. In this case, it was the facilitation of the order processing, which is the sale itself, and then the license generation. So my standard entity that I'm going to use is contact. So the way that I work on my systems is all of the people in my system are always contacts. I don't use leads. I have the relationship type set to prospect or lead for people that, say, download a trial. When they purchase something, they turn into a customer. So part of the process is to actually turn the customer into turn the contact into a customer by setting the relationship type field when they make the sale. But I did have to create two custom entities, and the first is what we call a product purchase. And the second is actually a record that causes the plugin to fire to generate a license, and I called that the license generator. So I have three plugins involved in this, and these are all custom that I wrote. Smart Web Import is the one that actually takes the data out of the email itself. This is a product I used to sell a while ago. License Generator is one that will take the information taken from a Smart Web Import, and it will actually generate a license based on the product itself, the expiration date, the user, etc. And then there's a third one I have called Marketing List Manager, and all it does is it adds people to a marketing list. Really simple there. And then finally, I have a workflow that handles all of the product purchasing. So the way it kind of works out is the plugins handle specific static tasks. So Smart Web Import handles the importation of data from an email. License Generator handles the actual creation of a license and emailing of that license. And then Marketing List Manager adds the contact to the marketing list for that particular product so that I know that they are actually a customer of a specific product and not just a lead of a specific product. The dynamic part is the product purchase workflow. Since I have that in place, everything can be dynamic, so I can add as many products as I want, so nothing's actually hard-coded. So this, again, is the power of CRM with the workflow engine. I can add an unlimited number of products just by modifying my workflow to add and create new data. So here is how the process works when the email comes in. So we get the confirmation email, it hits the CRM queue. The Smart Web Import plugin is sitting there waiting for things to be added to queues. It does a series of checks to see, is this what we're really after to work on? And then what it does is it will create a product purchase activity, and then it will create a customer if that customer does not exist. If they do exist, it basically does a lookup. So if it finds their email address, it will just pull that information out, and when it creates the product purchase activity, it will use that. If it doesn't find the person's email, it will actually create a new activity and then hand that off to the product purchase activity. So I went with an activity instead of this is your standard CRM custom entity, because activities are things that have happened or will happen with a contact or another record within CRM. So a letter, an email, an appointment, a task, these are all activities. Product purchase is another one of those. So they purchase a product, that's an activity that they did. I need to know about that. Okay, so by creating a custom entity and specifying it as an activity, it will actually show to us in the list with all the other activities, so we can get a singular glance of everything the customer's done. Prior to this, back in the CRM 3.0, 4.0 days, I had a custom entity that was not an activity. So as soon as we had, I guess it was 2011 when they gave us the custom activities, I converted this system over to use the custom activities instead of just a standard entity. And that really kind of cleaned up the interface, and it gave us a singular place to look for things. And I think made the user experience, which is me, much easier, and also it's just a better flow through the system. So again, this is actually my entire custom contact form. I don't really have a lot because most of the people that I work with are actually over the internet. I don't really deal that much with people locally, quite honestly. It's kind of weird, but that's the way it works out sometimes. So I get their name, their job title, company name, email, relationship type, etc. The product purchase activity is pretty standard. So we have a subject, we have the regarding, which is the person. We have a few other fields, and since then I think I've actually modified this in a secondary version of my my license generator tool to actually fill this out more completely. The product points to a custom entity. I did not use CRM products. They're a little bit too, I guess you could say, heavy for what I needed. All I really needed was a name. I didn't want to go through all the things like price list and all the other stuff to go with that. In your situation, you may find that doesn't work for you. You need actually a link to the product, the actual CRM out of the box product. That works as well. You just have to kind of modify the system here. Quantity, I record the PayPal invoice number, and then finally the gross and some fees and things like that, and the organization unique name at the bottom. So these are all the things that we extracted from that email confirmation that we received at the very beginning of this process. So the third goal of this was to actually create the product license key, deliver it to the contact, and then add it to the contact record within CRM. So all of this is done through a workflow. So I have a workflow that fires when a product purchase is created. And as you can see from the steps there, it's really simple. I just verify which product they purchased. And again, that's going to be a string. The string is actually set up in the eJunkie account. So it is a literal value that is set up and it has to match. You could also do a product number. I just chose to use a product name just because that's the way it kind of passes through the system. I do two things. In most cases here, I add somebody to a marketing list, which you see the marketing list manager action, and then I create a license generator. So this is the license generator. All it takes is the product name. If they have a single organization license, it has the organization filled out. Then there is a purchase date and an expiration date. So without any kind of modification manually or some special thing I have set up, basically the expiration date is 12 months from the date of purchase. Then I have the contact, a link to the contact record, as well as the user's, the contact's first, last name, and email. So again, if I find the contact, I pull it out. If I don't find the contact, I create it. And this information here is all stored inside the license file that gets generated. And so what happens with this is everybody familiar with PKI or public key infrastructure? So I have a private public key set that I use to encrypt the license key within the plugin, and then inside my applications there is a public key that I use to decrypt the information. And what that does is it keeps people from modifying the license to say extend it to to forever, So things like that. So the idea is I have this key embedded into the application, and then I encrypt it on my CRM system. It gets sent out via email. It's just a text file. It's an XML file specifically, and then that's what's read by the application. And based on what it finds in the file, either it's going to find an organization or not an organization. Without an organization, that means it's what we call a site license. But if it finds an organization, it restricts it to a specific organization. So here's the process there. License generator generates, it creates the product license, it attaches it to the contact, and emails that contact the product license. Pretty simple. So here are some drawbacks that I found. Found out last week accidentally. You would be surprised sometimes. People buy things, and when they don't get something, they don't say anything for quite a period of time, and you have to figure it out on your own. And that happened to me on Friday. Basically, CRM had changed my password, which I've now fixed forever, I hope. And one of the drawbacks of this is if your email router is not running, or in this case, your password is changed and it can't communicate, or if your server-side sync is not running, depending on how you do things, the emails will not go out, and therefore they will not get their license keys. Okay, so that's something to kind of keep an eye on. I have two CRM organizations. One uses an email router, one uses server-side sync. They both have a similar issue where they can have some kind of problem and you not know about the problem unless you're actually specifically looking for it. A way around this, which I need to actually build into my system, is I need to put in when somebody gets a license key, I need to be copied on the email. Right now I'm not. And that would solve, if I see a purchase and do not see a license within like 10 minutes, then I've got an email problem somewhere. The first thing here that's kind of a problem, which is, I'm not sure anybody's ever run into this, but Exchange has this lovely process it does. When you pass in a text email, it automatically converts it to HTML. And if you're not aware of that, that can cause a problem because the way that we do the parsing, the way that my simple web import works is it can take things out of a text file with pretty much what we call key value pairs. So you have a key, which is like username on the left-hand side, a colon, and a value. So it looks for those things. It also looks for a table, a HTML table, that it can pull things out of two columns. That's a secondary thing that I built into it. And the problem with that is I look for an HTML signature at the very beginning, and what I was finding was Exchange was adding an HTML signature because, again, it converted it to HTML email, which would fire off the wrong processor, and kind of had to fix that on that specific installation, which is one of those deals you have to run into. Okay, so I know this has been kind of quick. The summary here is we wanted to satisfy three goals for my company: to process the physical product sale, to capture customer product information, and to create a license key and automatically deliver that key to everybody. So, does anybody have any questions? Okay. Tell you what. The link to the product itself, Kostya, is right here. This product link. Yeah, Aaron, a plugin actually processes the email. So what happens is the plugin is tied to the creation of a queue item, and what it does is it looks for a specific queue that you set up in a configuration, And what happens is once it sees that it's in that queue, it will actually attempt to process it and parse it out. If it has an issue, there's a secondary queue that I created for problems or errors. I throw that email over into that queue so that if I see it over there, I know there's some kind of problem processing it. Jerry, what's the trial look like versus the buy? Pretty much there is no license key, quite honestly. So all the products that I have that have trials, they're hard coded to offer specific functionality. If a license is not found, it automatically defaults to trial mode. So, like for instance, if you put your license key, if you don't put it in the licenses folder, or you have the wrong license for some reason, or it's expired, it will automatically drop back to a trial version. What happens when the users provide the wrong org name? Basically, they call me or email me, and I have to generate a new license. Most of the time, I have a link said, okay, here's where you find this information. It's on the purchase site. Some people don't read that, and they put in like the textual name of the URL. So when a lot of times, if I see that, I'll email them immediately saying that license key is not going to work. I need the URL that's on your the organization name that's on your URL. That's the name I'm after. So most times when I see that come in, that's the first thing I check, just to make sure it's a valid looking thing. How do I avoid an incorrect license? I don't. I could void it within my system. I can just basically just delete it. Quite honestly, it's usually what I do. Hey Todd, that is an excellent question. Okay, so Todd's question: what kind of cleanup do you do with contact records if using an email different than they purchased? Here is actually I need to add this to the list. One of the biggest problems that I have is the person using the software is not the person purchasing the software, and unfortunately, this entire process is driven off of that person need to be the same person. So what happens is everything that I send out goes to the person who purchased it. So if it's not the person who actually is using it, a lot of times what I'll have to do is I'll have to go in and manually create that person and then move it over, move the license over to them, and so then it kind of disable the other person. It's a little bit cumbersome. I really haven't found a good way around that other than asking, who's this for. My only option that I've ever had would actually just to go back to what I was doing before, where I have to ask the person, "Are you the ones going to be using this?" So I'll come up with, I would say, a technical contact and an admin contact, and I haven't done that yet. Yeah, Aaron. The way that the licensing works in this specific case is uh, it will, when you select an organization, it will check the license key against the organization, and if it is an organizational license, so again the license match or not, it will actually verify against the organization. Basically, I have two licenses. I have an organizational license and a product license. The product license is actually for site license. So there's no org specifically. So the way the licensing code works is it first checks to see if the license is for the organization. If it's not, it assumes it's for the product and then verifies the dates and then basically goes from there. Uh, is there a mechanism for preventing someone from using a license in a different org? I check the org name. If the org name is not the same, it will not work at all, and you can't modify it. So these are great questions. Anything else? Actually, I can unmute everybody if they want. Hang on a second. Okay, I'm going to unmute everybody. So if you're not going to talk, please mute your phone. That way, maybe we can do this more interactive.
Hey, Mitch, are you recording this by chance?
I am recording this.
Good.
Hey, Mitch, this is Aaron. How does
Hey.
the deal work with eJunkie? Do they take a piece of do they take a percentage, or how does it work?
No, I pay them $5 a month, up to 10 products, and it's $10 a month after that, flat fee.
Hey,
Okay,
Mitch, with the situation you have with eJunkie, so you're only paying them $5 a month, but the license themselves, you're controlling that on your end with a plug-in, the license generator, correct?
Yes. Yeah, so basically, I'm just paying them for the service of basically the shopping cart. That's all I'm paying for, and then PayPal takes their cut. PayPal takes their cut out. Like if you look at this, where is it? Yeah. Like see, like on $4.95, they take $14.60 out.
Gotcha. Okay, so the key to it, the license itself, that's a plug-in you control on your side.
Yeah, that's 100% mine. So a very long time ago, I'm not sure anybody who's been along with CRM long enough. There's another MVP named Michael Hone from Germany. He and I created this licensing system. This is back in the 3.0 days. And so the way it works is it has different things in it. So I'm using the organization version, but you can do dates, you can do users, things like that. It's just the way it's built. Like I said, I only use the organization part of it, but it's a fairly decent thing. And then again, it's basically just a matter of working on deciding on how your product needs to be licensed. So you can license things in kind of one of three ways. So you can just have a kind of a date range, like I do with my site license. You can have an organization, which is what I mostly work off of. You could, if you did it, I didn't do it, but some licenses actually are configured by machine. So what happens is when you have an installation application of some type, it will pull machine-specific information and then maybe send it back and have the license generated and have it sent back to you. That's what some people do. I didn't, quite honestly, want to have that type of situation. This is just personal preference. So, I agonized over this for I can't tell you how long. It was a long time about how to license these things. So what I came up with was just a site license for pretty much a set of unlimited organizations or a per organization license. So that was just, because sometimes you find that like for my transformer tool, you may have 4 developers that need to convert JavaScript, but you don't want to have to pay for 4 licenses, because what I didn't really want to get into is the license update business. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah,
go ahead.
Is your license generator, is that still available?
It may be. We can talk.
Okay.
It's one of those things where the process is kind of complicated, and it's really not complicated technically. It's complicated because you have to do a lot of testing. You have to have your process kind of really ironed out, and you have to make it just work for what you do.
Yeah, and we're right in the middle of this.
Yeah, so it really kind of depends on how you want to do it. So, we can talk about it. Maybe it's something that works for you. Maybe we can just kind of walk through what you can do. It's not complicated, quite honestly. The licensing itself is pretty simple. It's just making a decision. What am I going to send to CRM to make it do this? And in this specific case was an email.
And then you're just extracting from the email the information you need to create the record.
Exactly. Now, you also have to remember, when I created this, this was CRM Online, but originally it was basically CRM Online didn't exist. So I didn't have an internet-facing thing for me to put my license code in. That's what a lot of people do. They'll have a license server on their website somewhere, and what they'll do is they'll actually create something that they have a web service that they send a piece of information to. It generates a license and sends it back, and that's recorded.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I may need to email you later and kind of prod you with some more questions that may go beyond the scope of what you want to do today.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Like I said, this is the reason this was kind of my first one, because this kind of happens a lot more than I think people realize. And it's really not so much licensing. It's really, I need to generate something, and I need to have a place to store it, but I also have to have some method of getting it to the customer. So in this case, it's a license. So I take information from outside the CRM system, I do something with it, and then I put it back into the CRM system. And then I need to, get it to the customer, back to them as well. So this kind of gave us, the best of both worlds, where everything is inside CRM. So, CRM doesn't work, then I can't sell anything. Well, I can sell stuff, but they just can't get a license, therefore it doesn't work. So again, there are some problems with the process. Like I mentioned, the emails having an issue, that was a problem. Things like that. But most of that you can kind of work through. It's mostly just getting the process down. Like if you're having, again, you could do it on the installation utility itself, but that would mean you have to write a piece of custom code that you called, and it has to talk to CRM, and it makes it more complicated than I thought it was worth. It also really depends on how much your software costs. Most of my software is, less than $1,000. And, some of these things, if, quite honestly speaking, if I get one email, I've lost money because I'm now in support mode and I'm not making money anymore. Yeah. So it really kind of depends on your situation. Sometimes if you're like Rob, for your stuff, I don't know how you guys license it right now, or if somebody manually generates it. But my whole thing is, since I deal with people that are not in North America or in the Americas, then I needed to basically take care of those people while they were working, because most of the time, by the time I get to work, and I come in kind of early most of the time, by the time I get to work, they're already home. So I couldn't have a several-hour delay.
Okay. Yeah, we are right in the middle of doing exactly this kind of process.
Okay. Oops. Okay. Coach, Michael retired, kind of, sort of, from the CRM world. He had some health issues and came out of that with flying colors, and decided that, you know what, watching my kids play soccer is a whole lot more fun than coding all the time. And Pete, how do CRM parse out that email? That's part of the plugin process. So basically the key value pair is the thing I was talking to you here. So what I do is I look for a colon as my identifier, and then I just say, okay, from the start of the line to the colon is the key, which is invoice number, and then from the right-hand side of the colon to the end of the line, or sometimes multiple lines, is the value. And I just basically parse that out and return to the plugin what's called a dictionary. So I have a list of keys and a list of values, then I pull specific things out that I use to populate my customer and product information. Anybody else? So anyway, this is exactly what Dynamics CRM is made for. And like I said, I can't tell you. I mean, this took me like I said, this part of this process has been around for a long time. The simple import process, it was a product that I created literally in CRM 3.0 days. It went through about 5 iterations. I don't really sell it anymore because, again, the setup process is kind of complicated, and strictly because of how many variations of what you're looking at, how many variations you could see. It's a lot of testing, and quite honestly, are you going to spend $1,000 for that? I don't know. So that was one of the things. So I kind of stopped selling it. I sold it for several years. I put it in 3 or 4 places. One of the places, believe it or not, is still running. In fact, they just got off of it because they were finally moved to CRM in 2013 or something like that. So. Okay. Any other questions we have? If not, then we'll wrap it up. Like I said, I'm going to put this recording up on somewhere. I'll let you know where when I want to get it up there. But anyway, so yeah, I really appreciate you coming today. And like I said, go out to that tinyurl.com/teaching Tuesday. And if you got any other ideas that you want to hear, let me know. I've got a couple more things I've kind of had on the back burner for a while. One of them is coming up with a couple of installations I have where we took faxes and imported them into CRM after they arrived at the fax server. So I thought I'd talk about that. That's more just a Windows service, quite honestly. So that's actually pretty cool. But anyway, so if anybody has any other things they'd like to see or hear or want to talk about, then please let me know. At some point, I think I'm going to try to get some of the other MVPs to share some of the things they've done so that we can kind of record some of these things, because I think a lot of people just don't know what CRM can do in an xRM platform. So this is kind of a introduction to that. So if that is it, then I guess we'll see you guys later on, and I will be talking to you whenever. And if anything else comes up, then please drop me a line.
Thanks, Mitch.
You bet. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot, Mitch.